Hi everyone, my name is Naili and I've been working remotely for the past 5 years. The first 2 years I was working as a general designer, more in a part-time role, and in the past 3 years I've been working as a senior designer and now as a senior product designer. And today I want to share some of the things I've learned along the way. So whether you're just starting your remote experience, you're thinking about starting it, or you've been in it for a while now, this video is for you. We'll go over 3 areas today. First, shining on camera, so how to look well in a video setting. Secondly, words that wow, where we'll go into how to master the art of written communication. And then lastly, working towards wellness. This is where I'll share my top tips around how to keep up your health in a remote working environment. Okay, so the first area, shining on camera. When you're in a remote working environment, you're definitely gonna have to be on camera at least some of the time. You might have a flexible environment where it's not super necessary for you to have your camera on every single session, but you're at least gonna have it on some of the time. And when you're thinking about how to really shine on camera, there are 2 main things that you have to think about: lighting and your background. For your lighting, you're really gonna have to make sure that your light source, whether that's a window, a light above you in the room, or a lamp, is in front of you and not behind you. And I'll show you why. So right now I have a window right here next to me. And so this is actually the view that people see when I'm on camera, except I'm using my phone and not a video camera. But the light is right here in front of me, and that's why I look like this right now. But if I were to simply just turn around, so have the light source behind me, as you can see, the video is just not as great. I think the iPhone is doing me a huge favor right now by just looking a little bit nicer, but as you can imagine, a video camera, things just look a lot more dark. Versus if I were to just turn around, the light source is in front of me, things just look more bright, you're able to see more of my features, and it overall just improves the quality of the video. For your background, you can take 2 main approaches. The first is to have some type of plain background. So just a plain background, it's solid, it's clean, you really can't go wrong with it. You can also use a background provided by Zoom or Google Meets. They have some pretty good plain ones as well as some more fun interactive ones if you want to play around with that in a casual setting. The second approach is to choose a background that says something about you in a way. First, you can do this by your apartment. So if you have an apartment that kind of showcases something about where you live, that's a huge plus. That's a little bit of what I'm doing here. You can't see it so much because I'm standing up, but when I'm sitting down, you're able to see a little bit more of my background, and you can see how there are tall buildings. And I see that this is something that people often bring up in conversation. They say, oh, hey, do you live in New York? Do you live in Chicago? So I found it to be a really nice conversation starter. Another thing you can do is put something up behind you that shows the type of work you do. So if you're an artist, put some art behind you. People will notice it. If you are someone who loves to read, so you can showcase your hobbies as well, put some books behind you, showcase maybe a couple of your favorite books to see if someone else has read that same book. I actually have a coworker who has a whiteboard behind him as well as sticky notes on the whiteboard, and I've always really liked this because it looks really nice, but it's also a very clear way of communicating the type of work that he does. So you look at him, you see his background, and you know that he's a researcher, you know that he does some sort of design thinking, you know that he's in innovation. And so that's something that I've always appreciated about his background, and something to kind of show that you can get very creative with what you choose to put behind you. Moving on to words that wow. So when you're in a remote working environment, you'll find that you'll be using a lot more written communication than verbal communication. At least that's what I found to be true in my line of work. And this makes mastering the art of written communication all the more important, because on a given day, you might have a ton of things on your mind. You might be asking for multiple things from a person. So how do you do this in a way that's clear, effective, and also gets you what you need? Because if you're someone who sends rude, dry, or messages that can't be understood, it'll only affect your relationships and also the outcome of your work. To master the art of written communication and also help make your coworkers love working with you, I recommend using the right framework. The W stands for warm up. So before even going into their request or what I need or why I'm even contacting them, I first check in on how the person is doing. I say, hey, how are you? If it's the morning, I say good morning. If it's the first day of the week, I ask how their weekend went. And this really helps establish an emotional connection with the person, because one of the biggest blockers to feeling connected with someone or wanting to work with them is feeling like things aren't reciprocal, feeling like the other person is using you, doesn't care about you as a person. And so with this warm-up step, we're really doing something to kind of work against that, to let the other person know, I'm not just using you, I care about you as a person. I'm interested in your life outside of work, like genuinely. And I think that in the busy world of work, people often feel like they can skip over this step, like, hey, we're just at work, like, let's just get this stuff done. We really bring our full selves to work. When we're at work, we're not just at work. We also have all of our lives, events, people, problems in our life. They're coming in to work with us. And when you acknowledge that with warm-up, you acknowledge the other person in their whole selves. And I think that this really helps establish a deep emotional connection. It helps that other person know you care about them and makes them much more likely to want to work with you in the future. The R stands for request. So after warming up and checking in with the person, I get very specific about what it is that I'm asking from the other person. If it's necessary, I'll provide additional context. So say, hey, this is what's happening, just let them know what I'm even talking about, because people might not have the same level of knowledge as you do. And then I will try to be as direct as possible. So saying, I'm wondering if X, or can you give me blank, or do you know anything about X? Just being very clear with a one question. If you can limit it to one question, that's even better, about what you need from the other person. The I stands for importance. So after you've done a little bit of background, you've given them what you're asking for, it might be helpful to reiterate how important it is, especially if it's something urgent or something that you need from them in order to move forward with other work. This is necessary to point out because sometimes people aren't really sure of how important something is to you. Everyone has their own projects going on. Everyone has multiple things that they're juggling at the same time. And something that you think is really important might not actually be as important to them in that very moment. And so reiterating how important it is, whether it's something that is blocking you, whether it's something that's going to really impact a lot of stakeholders, will be essential in making sure that you get the outcome that you want out of this communication. Something that pairs really well with the I is the T, which stands for time frame. So when you're making a request from someone, be very specific about when you want them to deliver by. Is it 2 days from now, or is it 2 weeks from now? Both of which communicate two different levels of importance. Something else also to consider when we're making requests is being very considerate about what the other person has going on in their lives. Don't demand a time frame, instead suggest it, propose it, because saying, I need this by X date feels very different than, I was hoping we could have this by X date, can you deliver? One feels like a threat, a little bit mean, a little bit demanding, a little bit presumptuous, and the other one feels like something like a suggestion. It's being thoughtful and also realistic. And so there's a way that we can communicate timeframes in a way that makes it clear with our expectations, but also allows for flexibility. And lastly, E is for emphasizing gratitude. This step is a little bit more optional depending on what method of communication you're using. So this might be a little more appropriate to do every time in an email than it would be every time in a Slack message. But overall, emphasizing gratitude is key to a healthy working environment, especially in a remote working environment where things can often feel a bit impersonal. At the end of the day, people are giving their time, people are giving their lives to work on something that's important to you, important to an organization, important to a mission. And taking this extra step to let someone know that you appreciate them can really go a long way in making them feel better at work and in making them want to work with you again. Let's move on to working towards wellness. The first thing about working towards wellness is investing in a solid home office. This doesn't mean buying the newest or the fanciest gear. What it really means is investing in things that can allow you to have a good posture at work. So making sure that you're not looking downwards too much, making sure that you're not looking upwards too much, making sure that your feet aren't dangling off the chair, that they can sit straight planted on the floor, making sure that you have back support. So just having a desk, a chair, and a monitor that helps you accomplish those things is more than enough. A physical therapist once told me that your best move is your next move. And this was a really nice way of illustrating how part of remote working and the challenge of it is that we're not moving enough. We're sitting or standing static in a place for way too long. And so my recommendation is that if you can't invest in anything else, I would recommend investing in a standing desk. And the reason for this is because it will allow you to get a little bit more movement in your day by allowing you to alternate between sitting and standing very easily. The second tip is to take breaks. I used to think that taking breaks were optional. I thought that I could just focus and get my work done, and I actually thought taking breaks wasn't good because then I wouldn't get as much work done. I wanted to be productive. And then I realized that this was the worst thing that I could ever do to myself in a remote working environment. Over time, your back will hurt, you will get dry eyes. I got dry eyes, I had to go to the doctor for it. It's not a good idea and it's just not worth it. And there have actually been studies that have shown that we are more productive when we take breaks. So I strongly recommend every day set a timer to 25 to 40 minutes. When that timer goes off, take a walk, drink some water, even just look in a different direction and blink for 20 seconds, and then get back to work and start your timer again. I promise you that these breaks will really add a lot of health value to your life. A third tip for working towards wellness is to incorporate fun and joy. In a remote setting, there are no moments where a coworker just walks by your desk and makes side conversation. There are no moments where you can have a lunch break with your coworkers or go to a holiday party in person. These moments just don't exist in a remote setting, and so you have to create them. There are lots of ways to do this, and which one you choose just depends on what you find fun and joyful. You can send gifts in Slack, you can set up a virtual happy hour, you can send gifts in the mail to your teammates. There are so many ways to do this, and I feel like this makes work not only more enjoyable, but helps you build stronger relationships with your coworkers too. Overall, I really love remote work. It's given me the opportunity to have roles that I otherwise would have probably never had access to given where I lived at the time. It's also given me the flexibility to prioritize my partner, my family, as well as have space for other things outside of work too. While remote work has its own unique set of benefits, it also has its unique set of challenges, and I hope that this video was helpful in addressing some of those areas. If you're ever struggling to incorporate more breaks into your work, I recommend checking out my Work With Me series where I'd set specific intervals of time to work and then take a break. And this can be a really helpful way to get started and get into the habit of taking breaks at work to promote your overall well-being. Thank you and see you in the next video.